It's Cougar Sports Saturday.
That's caught! Touchdown! Stayed inside the boundary and gets in for 6.
Cougar Sports Saturday, a presentation of KSL Sports.
Richie right to the rim, driving score! He would not be denied!
BYU Sports Talk by Cougar fans for Cougar fans. Sponsored by Any Hour Services, Electrical, Plumbing, Heating, and Air. Your hosts are Mitch Harper and Kyle Ireland. On Utah's legacy home of the Cougars, KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM and 1160 AM.
Good afternoon, Cougar Nation. Welcome on into Cougar Sports Saturday, live from Broadcast House here in Salt Lake City, Utah. Mitch Harper, Kyle Ireland with you over the next 3 hours as we navigate a loaded time in BYU athletics, BYU football. So much to unpack since the last time we were on the air. And, of course, it's a BYU basketball game day. And even better than that, it's a rivalry game day, BYU versus Utah tonight, 8 p.m. tip-off right here on KSL News Radio. Kyle, we've got a busy show for you over the next 3 hours.
Yeah, first off, Happy New Year to you, Mitch, because last time we spoke on these mics, it was 2025. It's crazy how it's just – last week we had the basketball game in the morning against K-State, and so weren't on the air for that. But, you know, there's been a lot that has happened, like you mentioned, in the last few weeks, and it's crazy what this new era of Big 12 power, structure, BYU athletics has brought us to, where, BYU's involved in the national landscape of both college basketball and football. It's really fun and exciting times.
It really is, and I think it leads to Cougar Nation feeling like what is possible, and when you look at what's happening in the college football playoff right now, maybe wonder why not BYU eventually in that spot. And the key to having great success nationally in college football or college basketball is ultimately the players. And for BYU football, what a string of good news this past week. They're running it back. They're locked in. Sometimes you could argue, do we really need these announcements? I mean, are we to that point where everyone has to say, locked in, run it back? Still, I'm sure these guys get inundated with, hey, are you coming back? Are you going into the portal? Are you leaving? Are you getting paid by this person? So then they just put out the graphic and say, I'm running it back. One of those guys that's coming back next season, Cougar Nation, is star running back L.J. Martin, Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year, turned to Instagram and shared a hype video and a graphic that said he's coming back for one more season. Kyle, I will say, when he made that official, and it was kind of trending that way for some time, that LJ was going to come back. But when he made it official and said that he's going to be returning in 2026, I can't help but let my mind wander and think BYU should be in the conversation to be a preseason top 10 team in college football next year.
Yeah, absolutely, Mitch. I mean, just look at the 25 schedule. The only losses, the only blemishes were against Texas Tech, who, before they lost, and obviously the college football playoff,
they were terrible.
They don't have a new ranking and all of that.
Oh, they were terrible.
I'm interested to see where they fall in the final AP poll because they just got blasted by Oregon.
Sure. But
at the time, number 4 team in the country. That's the only blemish on their record. Yeah. And you think about it, like just think to last night's game. Oregon loses to Indiana. The only losses that Oregon has on their schedule as the number 5 team in the country is to Indiana, the number 1 team in the country who's still undefeated. And BYU, very similar position to Oregon in that light, where the only losses they had were to Texas Tech, who was previously undefeated and looking like one of those teams that could possibly win the national championship. Obviously, it didn't play out that well for the Big 12 in the college football playoff, and I'm interested to see just kind of how the conference is viewed moving forward. But it just goes to show that, teams like Miami, teams like Indiana, when the investment is made into these programs and they are given the opportunity, like a Miami sneaking into the college football playoff, hey, a week from Monday, they're going to be playing for a national championship. Who's to say that BYU couldn't be in that position next year if the chips fall in the right order and they have some good luck? I think that it's a balance of having good result on the field, having talent, have skill, have good coaching, all of those things. But you do have to get a little lucky at the same time. BYU has had a lot of success over the last 2 years, and with all of these players coming back, with really, I'm kind of amazed, Mitch, when you look at, and we'll talk about the coaching changes, but the fact that, Kalani's staff is, for the most part, pretty well intact, and there's going to be a lot of continuity moving forward still. It's trending for BYU to have a lot of success in 2026.
BYU has received announcements from many players that they're coming back in 2026. LJ Martin, I think, leads the way. Absolutely. Because he was the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year, and he's knocking on the doorstep of being the best BYU running back of all time. And we could probably get into that conversation a little bit later as well. But here's the list of guys. When you hear these names, I can't help but get excited for 2026 BYU football season. We always get excited for every BYU football season on this show, but when you see this list, the names that are coming back, it's pretty exciting, especially in this transactional transfer portal era that we're in, where everyone tells us in the national college football media, everyone's just about the money and they want to leave and exit as quick as they can to get theirs. These guys are coming back. LJ Martin's running it back. Quarterback Bear Bachmeier, he's running it back. And with Bear, we kind of joked about this on our Cougar Tracks podcast special when we were at the Marriott Center on Wednesday night. Did Bear need to really make an announcement? You're a true freshman quarterback. But still, he probably got so many people around him at school or people saying, hey, are you going to leave? Because that is the portal era that we're in. I mean, these players have complete autonomy over their path. If they want to leave, they have all the power in the world. And they got agents, and I'm sure those agents work the phones, say, hey, hypothetically, what could my guy get if I if he enters the portal? So Bear makes it clear he's coming back. That's huge. You're talking about one of the best backfields in college football now. Linebacker Isaiah Glasker comes back. Safety Falatau Satuala. And look, Falatau Satuala was huge just because when you revisit the recruiting process of Falatau Satuala, how he kind of, tongue-in-cheek comment, basically flipped a coin to pick BYU over Utah, and then that strong relationship with Jay Hill, and you consider the fact that he was a second-team All-American this year, you got to think that Michigan would have loved to have had Falatau Satuala, but the day that it was official that Jay Hill goes to Michigan, Falatau makes it clear he's running it back. That is awesome because Satuala, he's got so much ability. He could be the best safety in the Big 12 next year.
Oh, absolutely, Mitch. And I think it goes back to Kalani and the decision in early December to not take the Penn State job. Because had that taken place, Mitch, a lot of these guys that are running it back, they would not be running it back. They would be in the portal. They would be gone. They would be either going to Penn State or Michigan or some other power program. I mean, maybe some of these guys, there are a handful of them that are BYU guys and obviously local products as well. But, Kalani being at BYU is massive. It's huge. It's more important than retaining Jay Hill would have been or having Jay Hill been the next head coach at BYU. Kalani staying at BYU is the biggest piece of news that has happened in the last month and a half. And it can't be understated. And the reason why a guy like Falatau Satuala isn't following Jay Hill to Michigan is because of BYU and the culture that Kalani has built.
I never understood the pockets of the BYU fan base that were saying they'd rather have Jay Hill as the head coach over Kalani. And look, Jay Hill's fantastic.
Absolutely.
He's big time.
Yeah, he's great.
And I wish he was still at BYU. I think all of Cougar Nation wishes Jay Hill was still to DC. I'm excited about Kelly Papinga, though. We'll get to that here around the corner. But Kalani is BYU football. And he is just the perfect coach in this climate of the sport where he has adapted in a great way to the new rules of college football. And he's got a personality that no one hates him. And I say that because I've talked to a lot of guys over the years that have been in the Kalani era where maybe they sign with BYU out of high school, but then they leave. But the one thing that they say when they leave, they loved Kalani. No bad feelings towards Kalani. Or guys that end up signing to a different school, and they're like, man, it was tough because I really loved Kalani. Like, Kalani has this ability that whether they pick BYU or not, these guys, that it's a sincere relationship. He doesn't burn bridges. And you see it all the time when the portal happens and guys that didn't pick BYU the first time around, they then circle back and say, yeah, I want to play for Kalani Sitake. And now you pair it up with the Big 12. You pair it up with the enhanced resources of NIL because I'll tell you what, you're not keeping these guys unless you got some competitive NIL. Like, let's not get it twisted here. These guys are going to be making some nice cash, too. What exactly? Don't know. But BYU's got resources. And then you just look at the fact that I think this team, and maybe it's a naive take by me, Kyle, but I really get the feeling that this BYU culture and locker room, they like playing together as a team. And they like being part of this and what they're building. And Kalani is a really good coach in terms of high expectations. And they have to work incredibly hard. And he is not someone that is just so easy to play for. He's demanding, like any head coach. But at the same time, he's got this ability to where open door policy. You can go to him when you've got concerns or questions. And it's a player's program, too. It's kind of just a nice blend of all things. And then you're a player and you go, why wouldn't I pick and stay at BYU compared to all these other places that, yeah, maybe historically they got the bigger names to the national college football media, but BYU's looking to become a new blood. Kalani said this. He wants to build a juggernaut with this new extension, and retaining a roster like this that was knocking on the door of the playoff, that gives you the chance to potentially become a juggernaut.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing that I'll go back to, Mitch, is if you look at Kalani's 10 years now that he's been at BYU for a decade as the head coach, every single moment that this team has faced adversity, whether it's 2017 or the COVID season and how BYU managed that, or even 2023 and entering the Big 12, since 2017 in particular, when BYU faced that horrible season and the changes that needed to be made on the coaching staff and the way that Kalani built the program, for the most part, I'm not going to say everything's been perfect, but Kalani has made the right hires. He's made the right moves, and that should, to Kelly Papinga and these other staff changes, being able to utilize the NIL era, like you mentioned. I think that Kalani has been so adaptable, and he's been able to make the right changes, the right hires for BYU in the current landscape. And that's shown to bode well and prove itself out over especially the last couple of years for BYU. There's no reason to believe that BYU doesn't continue this upward trajectory.
Let's take a break, and on the other side, we'll get to the coaching staff changes, the new DC in replace of Jay Hill. We'll hit on that next. It's Cougar Sports Saturday, live on a game day, rivalry game day. BYU basketball getting ready to take on Utah tonight here on KSL News Radio.